Good morning, Unity in Marin. How's everyone doing in 2020? Can we wake ourselves up by singing this song together? All right, I hear some hand clapping. That's even better. Okay, here we go. I'm in the right place at the right time. I am just where I'm supposed to be. I'm in the right place at the right time. I am just where I'm supposed to be. I'm in the right place at the right time. I am just where I'm supposed to be. I'm in the right place at the right time. I am just where I'm supposed to be. Oh, my soul is welcome here. Oh, my soul is welcome here. I am getting the message loud and clear. My soul is welcome here. Oh, my soul is welcome here. Oh, my soul is welcome here. I am getting the message loud and clear. My soul is welcome here. I'm in the right place, come on now, the right time. I am just where I'm supposed to be. I'm in the right place at the right time. I am just where I'm supposed to be. I'm in the right place at the right time. I am just where I'm supposed to be. I'm in the right place at the right time. I am just where I'm supposed to be. Oh, my soul is welcome here. Oh, my soul is welcome here. I am getting the message loud and clear. My soul is welcome here. Oh, my soul is welcome here. Oh, my soul is welcome here. I am getting the message loud and clear. My soul is welcome here. I am getting the message loud and clear. My soul is welcome here. Yes, you are welcome.
Good morning, Unity. How are you doing, everybody? So good to see everyone, and I have not been here for a while. I went to Washington to see my parents over Christmas. I went to Ireland to see my wife's family, and I've been a little bit sick, but I'm so glad to be back. And on such an amazing Sunday, today we have such a great energy and a continuation of the Burning Bowl Sunday. So we have Will Tuttle, who's going to be speaking today, and a lot more about that later. And Reverend Tim is going to be doing the White Stone ceremony, and there's incredible music, and we have each other. And for those of you online, it's great to huddle up and join as we kind of move through the beginnings of January. So just looking at the week ahead, there are so many things coming up, and there are four. So if you just kind of open your heart and your mental calendar, there are two things today. There's something coming up this Wednesday, and then also Thursday. So actually, right after the service today, Will is going to have a workshop, and he's going to talk about opening the intuitive gate, and he'll get up and obviously you hear him today, and he'll explain the workshop a little bit more, but it's at 1:30, and what a great chance to take whatever is awakened and arouses your curiosity and really run with it. And again, the beginning of the year is kind of like a beginner's mind, a fresh time to start and think new ways and do new things. So that's today, 1:30. And then Wednesdays have really been growing and growing through last year, and this Wednesday will be no exception. We have the didgeridoo music, which, by the way, that's not only a hard word to pronounce, but it's one of the oldest instruments in the world. It's basically a stick in the ground that the termites ate through the middle, and you can make music through it. But it creates such wonderful vibrations, and it's done by the very talented Renee Jenkins. So that'll be this Wednesday service. And then on Thursday, the next day, we have the Enneagram with Nancy Foster. And if any of you know Nancy, you're here, right? Raise your hand. Yeah, Nancy is just she's a very wonderful, warm person, such an educated, experienced person. I think the class reflects both her mind and her heart. And while the Enneagram is a very analytic and useful framework, it's going to be more about centering prayer. So to really get into the heart space and then also see, your personality types and often your blind spots. So do come. It's going to be from 6 to 8 p.m. every Thursday, starting this Thursday. And lastly, Janice will have second service today on Sunday, her Receive Your Life workshop. And again, if any of you know Janice, are you here? There she is. Well, Janice, another person, just big-hearted, so educated, and like Nancy, and they actually worked together for a couple of years. So her workshop is really applying spiritual principles and just living to your fullest, and you couldn't think of a better New Year's resolution. So the week is really full of great events. Hope to see you there. And with that, Reverend Tim, if you'd welcome us. Oh, I'm sorry. I am not only a little sick, I have some amnesia. I forgot that we are a spiritual community, and we should say that together. So if y'all don't mind repeating our mission statement, which is way back there. My apologies. I'm going back to worship assistant school. We are a spiritual community committed to authenticity and the expression of love and support for each other in living an awakened and enlightened life. Thank you. Reverend Tim.
All right. I think I like that right before I do a welcome, because I want all of us to feel welcome and to know that we are home. Welcome home. It's a joy to have Dr. Will Tuttle here and Madeline here. Dr. Will Tuttle is a composer, pianist, educator, author of the best-selling book, The World Peace Diet, which has been published in 16 languages, and at some other time, at some other time we will have him present on that, but today he'll be talking to us about awakening the inner genius, and then in our workshop at 1:30 about opening the intuitive gate, about finding that inner wisdom within. For example, inner wisdom within. I have this sense of knowing and affirming that the San Francisco 49ers and the Kansas City Chiefs will play in the Super Bowl. Anyway. Just saying. 49ers, my second favorite team. So, sorry. Will has a PhD in education from University of California at Berkeley, and he's taught courses in philosophy, humanities, mythology, creativity, comparative religion. He's a former Zen monk, and so his wife, Madeline, is a visionary artist from Switzerland, and so these are your art, some of your art up here. And do you have some art for sale today? Great. And you have some music and books to sell. So out there and here, and so it's awesome to have you both here. Let's give them a warm welcome. Thank you. And if this is your first time here, we especially welcome you. We welcome all of you. If this is your first time here, ushers have some gifts ready. And these are mugs, thermal mugs, that have our logo, and they're just wonderful to travel around with you so that you can tell others about this wonderful place you came to today. So, if this is your first time here, would you please raise your hand? First time or first time since I came here? Right here and right back here. All right. Thank you. Right back here. Anyone else? All right. Right here. Okay. Anyone else? Go ahead. Raise your hand. Don't be shy. All right. And we want to welcome all of our wonderful love streamers. Thank you for joining us. I want to welcome you. We've had love streamers from Congo, from Denmark, Hawaii, France, Nigeria, and Taiwan, North Carolina, and Taiwan. Our prayers are with you as you just had a historic election, electing a Democratic leader in free and open elections. And so our prayers are with you, Taiwan, and all of you who are love streaming. Let's look over here at the side camera. Wave to them. Those of you in Hawaii, give you a shaka. So good to have you here. We just bless you and we welcome you here. And we have a number where you can go to this number. And so if you have a smartphone, on your text function, go to this number. And if you're new here, text the word welcome. You'll get a digital card. You can fill out some basic information. And we will be in touch with each other by way of text and email, just so I can connect with you and keep you up to date on events. If you've been here a while, you can go to that same number and text the word loop. How many people got my text message last night? Okay, quite a few of you. And those of you who are love streaming, you can do this as well. So it's wonderful to have all of you here. And as we move into our time of ministerial prayer, I'm thinking about all the things that are going on in the world. And sometimes it's almost more than I can contain. The fires in Australia, the thousands of animals that have been killed in Australia in the fires, the people who've lost their homes there, the shooting down of a passenger plane flying in Iran. Think about 170 some people lost their lives. There's a lot going on in our world. And first and foremost, unity is about prayer consciousness. And at this time, one of our prayer chaplains, Elizabeth, is bringing forward our prayer box. It will be in the narthex in the entrance. Following the service, you can place your prayer requests there. We pray over those and then send them to Silent Unity. First and foremost, unity is a prayer movement. That's how we started. That's who we still are. Once in a while we think we're this or we're that, but first and foremost, we're a prayer movement. So I invite you to take a deep breath. If you wish, close your eyes or relax your gaze. And in this moment, we know the presence of wisdom, the presence of life, the presence of love, the presence of the divine living in, through, and as us. Where we are, God is. There is no spot where God is not. You are surrounded and filled in the self-livingness of this presence of God. As Paul said, in God we live, move, and have our being. You are the expression of this presence. And in this presence we know peace. In this presence we know healing and wholeness for our brothers and sisters in Australia, for our animal brothers and sisters in Australia and around the world. We know peace. A peace that passes all understanding, knowing that this peace first must begin within. And so, Spirit, as we turn within, we experience this peace, we experience this knowing. And we know there is truly only one power and one presence, active as our lives and as the universe, God the good, omnipotence. We lift up the concerns of our hearts wherever we are in the world, knowing we are all one, knowing we are all expressing the one presence, the one power. And we know the truth that there is only one power, And we align with this power and express this power, knowing we are love, we are light, we are here to be the light of the world. And for this, we give thanks. And so it is. Amen.
Let's take those words and ground them and center ourselves in them as you're able to stand and sing the statement of truth. There is only one power, only one presence, active in all my life and in the universe. God the good in all, through all and over all. There is only one power, only one presence, active in all my life and in the universe. God the good in all, through all and over all. Hallelujah, 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 hallelujah. And now I'd like to invite Will Tuttle up to share some music with us.
Thank you all so much for creating the space of love here, this beautiful sanctuary. I'd like to share a piece of original music now. It's called Benediction of Light, and just dedicate this to the healing of all of our relations and creating a field of consciousness for awakening and for healing. So just perhaps let the music take you on an inner journey, and we'll talk to you afterwards. Enjoy. Thanks. all so much, and thank you to the piano tuner and the sound people and everyone who helps make this possible. So it's really a delight to be with you today. Madeline and I drove down from the hinterland. We live up in Lake County, and we've been traveling actually to Unity churches for about 30 years, all over the United States, Canada, quite a few in other countries in Europe and Caribbean and Australia, wherever there's Unity, we try to go there. We've been to Unities in every single state except for North Dakota. They don't have one there yet, but when they do, we'll be there. So I always like to remember in the morning when we gather together like this to remember that we are part of a much larger movement, and there's people gathering in the spirit of Charles and Myrtle Fillmore to connect directly with the source of our being. And I think Unity in many ways is one of the healthiest movements that I'm aware of on the planet, because it's really a movement of inclusion, of radical inclusion, of including everyone and including the different spiritual traditions and honoring them. And I know that's very different from the church I grew up in Massachusetts, where we had the one right answer, and we would go to our heaven if we disbelieved our story. And it's been so great to see the Unity movement grow and prosper and connect us, I think, with really an ancient wisdom tradition that it is vital to keep alive in every generation, so that we can evolve and continue to evolve. And one of the things that I really love about the Unity movement is Charles kind of summed it up very well. He said that each one of us, as an individual, should go straight to headquarters. We should connect directly. What he meant by that was, I'll just ask Myrtle. the divine feminine, right? We got to connect with the sacred feminine. But I think, essentially, I want to talk a little bit this morning about intuition. Madeline and I will be doing a workshop at 1:30 that goes more in depth into this. I'm really fortunate that I could do my PhD research at Berkeley on educating intuition in adults. And essentially, the idea underlying everything is that all of us have an inner capacity to connect with our own inner wisdom, our inner guidance system, and that there's nothing, in a sense, more precious than this. What our intuition does, I think, essentially, is it's a guidance system so that we live our own life authentically. We're not living somebody else's life. We're actually living our own life. So this is something that I think we're really called all the time to develop and to connect with and to manifest in our lives our intuitive wisdom, to connect with our intuition. So it's not something that only a few people have. I remember when Ronald Reagan was president, and there was this, it was kind of basically a joke, but I thought it really applies exactly what I'm talking about. He said, according to this story, that he had he'd figured out a way that we would never have to worry about energy. We could solve all our energy problems. And his idea was we would build a pipeline straight to the sun, and we could just pipe in. So he went to all his advisors. He said, I figured it out. We can just solve the energy problem. We'll build a pipeline straight to the sun, and we'll just pipe all the energy in, and it'll be great. We can meter it. We can get rich. There'll be plenty of energy. And his advisors thought about it. They came back the next day, and they said, as usual, sir, it's a great idea, but there's one problem. When we're building that pipeline up to the sun, when we get close to the sun, it's very hot, and it's going to melt the pipe. There's no pipe we can think of that could stand that kind of heat. He said, look, I already figured that out. When we get close to the sun, then we'll only build and only work at night. I won't say anything about former presidents. But the basic idea is, we laugh because we know that from our point of view, he's right? I mean, there's a time we go outside and say, oh, the sun's not shining today, it's a cloudy day or at night. But from the point of view of the sun, it's always shining. And it's the same thing with our intuition. Our inner wisdom is always shining like the sun. We have this light shining in our heart. It's always shining. It's just that we ourselves are sometimes looking the other way. The clouds of our conditioning and so forth are in the way. So the whole idea in many ways is not to get intuition. It's mainly to remove the obstacles to the flow of this. And one of the most primary, I think, practices really is to have a practice of meditation or some kind of a practice to bring our mind into this present moment. Because when we cultivate this every day, this kind of practice, it basically connects us with an inner light that we begin to realize, we begin to see. It's like get a glimpse that there's more than just the material narrative that we've been given. That's one of the things I think that I've noticed. Madeline and I travel a lot. We just actually got back from Taiwan about a week ago. We spent 10 days there. It's a beautiful, amazing place, actually. We saw some tremendously inspiring spiritual education happening there. I'll talk about that later. But the thing that we travel and speak about quite a bit is the cultural narrative of the society that we're born into, and how actually we're, as little kids, of course, we want to believe everything. We want to think that we're in the greatest society, and our parents are always right, and the government's always right, and the corporations are always right, and this is the best thing. But there's something that Krishnamurti said, actually, that I think we have to keep in mind, which he said, it's not a good idea to be well-adjusted to a profoundly sick society. And I think, there's a point to that we have a cultural narrative that in many ways is obsolete. And it's pushing us in many ways in directions that are not in our best interest. And we're in many ways encouraged to think of ourselves as a thing, as an object that was born and will die. And so we have to consume in order to prove ourselves and have a certain image that we project to be successful. And we're bombarded with these messages continually. So it's very important for us, and that's why I love this community and the unity movement, to find another narrative, to connect with an inner narrative, an inner story that furthers our own evolution and the evolution of our society. And it's based on compassion and kindness and awareness of the interconnectedness of all living beings. So we're all interconnected. And when we begin to get a glimpse of that, I think really through meditative practice, through something, whatever it is that helps us, maybe connecting with nature, through athletics, there's lots of different ways we can do this. But if we can get into a moment where we feel that we're not just, and we become aware that we're not just this thing that was born and will die, this basically this piece of meat, this body. Because in the Buddhist tradition, which is really what I'm most comfortable with, I studied this for many years, there's this basic idea of samsara. You know that word, samsara? Samsara is the illusory world, in a sense. It's this physical world, but it's illusory when our mind is clouded with ignorance. And the idea is that when we think we're a fundamentally separate self, that is avidya, or delusion. We're fundamentally separate. And that leads to the poisons of wanting to get things, craving things, or trying to keep things away. We're constantly in this struggle, right, of just trying to manipulate and use each other as instruments to get what we want. And this whole kind of thing. This is the narrative of our society. We're born into this in every way, to compete with each other and to judge ourselves and each other according to this whole thing. So samsara, when we're trapped in that means basically suffering that never ends. So to realize, and from like being in Taiwan, it's very clear, their basic thing in education is life is eternal. I mean, way beyond what you can imagine, right? So don't just think this is it. I mean, we have a much larger frame here to be aware of. And so our actions have consequences. Everything has consequences. And to be aware of that, and to realize that the more we love and bless others and are kind and caring, the more everything boomerangs back. Because this is how it is. This is, I used to teach college courses in comparative religion, and the basic teaching, if you distilled all the world religions down into one sentence, it would be basically, whatever you most want for yourself, give that to others. This is it. We are not fundamentally separate from other humans, and all beings yearn for the capacity to be free, to fulfill their yearnings. And so when we begin to open out of this cultural narrative and begin to connect with our intuition through inner silence and through a supportive community and through the sacred teachings, can really help us in the wisdom teachings, then we begin to create a field, I think, of healing and awareness that gives our life meaning and purpose. Because once we get out of the cultural narrative of being a thing that was born and will die, then we can begin to escape from samsara, this suffering that never ends, and realize that every moment there is actually within us, if we quiet our mind enough, there's a little bubbling spring of joy. It's always there. We work very hard, I think, to keep it down. I'm worrying about what he said, and I wish they would have done, and I wish I wouldn't have done, and if I do that again, I won't do this. And our mind, we can go through an entire lifetime never being present, right? We get into an inner dialogue. How many of you have practiced meditation kind of on a somewhat regular basis, right? So you know what I'm talking about. My old Zen teacher said, when we sit to meditate, it's like we discover that there's an inner popcorn popping machine that we can't find the plug to, right? It's like always popping up these thoughts, right? And we can't stop. I want to think. It's like, it's really amazing how our mind, it does that. So, and so that's the narrative. That's the internalized narrative. And where does all that come from? See, that propels us to want to do this, to have this job, to want this relationship. That whole thing, it's been conditioned. It's the conditioning of our mind from all the different things in the past, right? From my parents, from my teachers, from my ministers, not Reverend Tim, the other ministers, all these things, just, pushing, driving us on. And so intuition essentially is to be able to discover our consciousness that's independent of all that. In a sense, the witness. We can watch all that, and then we can connect with what is ours, what is our true nature in the moment. And I think this is what connects us to the inner joy, which basically is just living our life. Our life. There's this fundamental sense of gratitude and joy if we're living our life, because life is precious and it's temporary. We're only here. It goes by so quickly. I remember reading recently about a woman. She was apparently the oldest woman in the world, and they said she was 118. And they said, "Wow, you're 118. What's it like being 118?" And she said, "It just went by awful fast." It goes by fast. I'm telling you. I remember when I was in my early, maybe mid-20s, I was taking a course in Chinese and in Oakland. And the woman was great. She was telling us about, the people in China and how they have this very traditional society that honors the elders. And she said, if you ever go to China and you try to tell people something like you have some kind of authority, like you know something, and you're not at least 60 years old, they will just laugh at you, like you're still wet behind the ears. You don't know anything if you're not 60, right? And I remember thinking, I'll never be 60. I was like, that'll never happen. But a few years ago, we were actually in China, and I could stand up in front of the people and say, now you have to listen to me because I am 60 years old. Well, you don't look like you're 60. Well, I'm eating a good diet, but I am 60, so you got to. But it goes by, that's the thing, it goes by so fast. And so to realize this is one of the fundamental teachings really in the Buddhist tradition, and I think it's a universal precious teaching, which is of the preciousness of this human birth, that we, if we have a human life, every day is precious, and to use it as best we can every day to be part of the solution to the things that are going on here, instead of being sort of part of the problem. And that means questioning the official narrative and connecting with our inner wisdom, because I think we have really an imperative. We live in such critical times. I think we're aware we can't just keep doing things the way we've been doing them. It's time to evolve to a more conscious and awake way of being, a more holistic way of being. And so it really calls for each one of us to find our unique gifts to do that. So I just want to close with maybe a short story about my own life. I remember when I was born and raised in Concord, Massachusetts, which was kind of a neat place to be born and raised, just because there's two things. There was the Revolution. Have you heard of the Revolution? Like, you remember Paul Revere and all that? Well, that was a big thing. I mean, I was a kid, April 19th, that's Patriots Day. That was when we would celebrate the revolution. My father would get he'd get in his Minuteman outfit, and take the gun off the wall, and we'd go down to the Old North Bridge, and we'd shoot against the redcoats, and we'd send them back to Boston, and we'd celebrate, revolution. If things aren't going well, you'd have a revolution, And then later, in the 1800s, there was Emerson and Thoreau, so we had this kind of transcendentalist revolution that was also in Concord. And that was a very interesting time. That was really the main entry point into Western society of the Eastern wisdom teachings. It came through Concord, these transcendentalists. They were discovering, really, the great wisdom of the Bhagavad Gita and the Upanishads and the Tao Te Ching and the Buddhist teachings. Thoreau had the largest library of Eastern books in the whole of North America back in 1840 or something like that. So I was raised there, and maybe I got a little bit of it, but I remember when I went away to college in the early 70s, it was the Vietnam War. Things were like, I started questioning everything, and I started doing a little yoga and doing some meditation and doing some reading, and I really got so excited by some of these Eastern teachings. And there was one book that maybe some of you have heard of that was really interesting to me. It was called Cosmic Consciousness. Have you heard of that book? Yeah. Written by Richard Buck back in 1890. And he basically said that everyone, all of us, have what he called self-consciousness. We're at this level of consciousness where we just basically care about ourselves, and those around us. But he said there are a few people who have attained what he called cosmic consciousness. People like the Buddha and Jesus and the great saints and sages, both men and women through the ages. He kind of talked about some of the main ones. But the main point was that it is the human purpose, and it's also our destiny, to all attain cosmic consciousness. That's why we're here. Cosmic consciousness is marked by a whole different way of relating to the world, where we, instead of just care about ourselves and this kind of pettiness, we have a love for everyone, for all beings. We lose the fear of death. We have this moral elevation and sort of an illumination of our consciousness that creates a whole different foundation for our life. And he basically said the purpose of life is to attain cosmic consciousness. And that resonated with me so strongly. I remember going home and talking to my father and saying, Dad, don't you know, we're not here just to get money and try to, get ahead in the world. We're here to attain cosmic consciousness. And he said, I'm spending a lot of money on this education for you there. How's that going to help you get ahead in the world anyway? But the interesting thing was my younger brother, Ed, when I talked to him about it, he was just, yes, let's do it. Let's do that. So we decided we were going to just devote our lives to attaining cosmic consciousness. But there was one problem, which was, all right, now what do we do? So we thought about it for a while, and then we knew what to do. We knew exactly what to do. It's 1975, you want to attain cosmic consciousness, it's obvious. You go to California. So we headed off. I remember going down the driveway with my brother, and we had our two little backpacks on and some fresh baked cookies from my mother, and we were heading to California. We're going to walk all the way. And we walked for about a month, and we got as far as Buffalo. And we are in Buffalo. It's October. It's freezing, and I thought, well, I have a bachelor's degree from a very good school. We're in Buffalo in October. We better just head south. So we headed south, and we walked actually for quite a few months down through upstate New York, Pennsylvania, West Virginia, Kentucky, Tennessee. We ended up actually in Tennessee right around the end of the year, and I remember it was so neat. We ended up in this community, commune. It was it was the largest hippie commune in the world at that time. It was called The Farm, and there was all these people from San Francisco were there and California, and so we thought, well, that's good. They met us in the middle. Here we are. It was great. And so we lived there for a while, but then we continued on to actually, believe it or not, there was a Zen center in Alabama we heard about. So we ended up at a Zen center in Alabama. And you probably think I'm lying, but there actually was one in Huntsville. And then I eventually got out to San Francisco, and I was living in a Tibetan Buddhist center and others, and I eventually ended up becoming a Zen monk in Korea. And eventually met Madeline in Switzerland. But the thing I want to emphasize on that walk that we were taking, because we walked all these, quite a few months, and we had nothing. I mean, the little bit that we had, we gave away, because I'm telling you, you have to carry it, and I don't need that extra pair of whatever it was. So we really became extremely minimalist, and we didn't have any money. We were just trusting that, and we would actually stop quite a bit at churches all along the way, and they wanted us to teach and talk to their kids and talk to them. And we said, it's just what Jesus said: seek ye first the kingdom of heaven, and everything else shall be added unto you. That's the most important thing, and we're doing it, and we were doing it. And we never went hungry. I mean, it was really, miracles were happening, left and right. It was very interesting how things happened. But what I remember was experiencing now and then, just out of the blue, this overwhelming sense of joy that I hadn't experienced maybe since I was, 6 months old or something. The last time I experienced it, and it was a joy because had nothing to do with the outer world. We had no reason to be happy. We had no money, we had no security, we were not doing what we were supposed to do. Our parents thought, well, this is ridiculous, but I was living my life. And I think all of us, when we follow our intuition, wherever it leads us, it may not be doing what other people think we should be doing, but we're living our life. And when we're living our life, there's this underlying sense of joy and gratitude that we have for this opportunity to do that. And I think that's one of the key points about the spiritual teachings, is that when each one of us connect with our inner wisdom and start living this, we start to feel the joy that we have and the gratitude that is fundamental and the natural abundance that is really ever present. And then we can begin to create a community to help these teachings go forth. And I think these are the two main things. Number one, to do the inner work that helps us to reconnect with our inner wisdom. And then number two, to create a sangha, a community that encourages these teachings to be alive, because we don't want them to die out. Every generation has an obligation to fulfill the teachings and bring them forward. So I want to thank all of you. I know if you found your way here and you're in this community, that you're on the path of awakening your intuition and inner wisdom and creating a community of sanity and freedom and justice and equality and loving kindness, which is a great thing to do for the short time when we come to this planet to do something like that. Thank you very much.
In this new year. Now, I'm aware that all of you who came in may not have received a white stone or the Vision 2020 vision. In fact, I didn't. And so if you didn't receive that, would you raise your hand, please? Okay?
Get a stone.
Okay, didn't get a stone, so hopefully we have stones. And I'll need one, please. And I'll need one of these. Thank you. I got that. Thank you. And did you get make sure you get the My Perfect Vision 2020. Isn't that great?
Yeah.
2020 vision. Oh, Thomas Tyree back here. Wendy didn't get one. Right there. Thomas Tyree. Now, let me explain some things before we go into this time of meditation. You have an envelope here. Unity and Marin is the return address. This will be our letter to God, or letter to the universe, or letter to ourselves. The things that in this meditation, and you can take it with you. You don't have to have it all figured out today. But for a number of us, while we have this meditation, we will tap into that inner genius. We will tap into that inner intuition that will guide us as to what is mine to do. Not what others are expecting me to do, not what is the programming, but what is that inner awareness, that inner genius leading me to do. And you love streamers. We're so grateful you're here. I encourage you to do this, to write this down, and to write down what it is that you're envisioning for this coming year. As I was driving here this morning, I was praying about this. Tears were starting to come to my eyes as I was getting in touch with what is really mine to do. Not what the mind is telling me this is what you ought to be wanting to do, but what my inner wisdom is really saying, this is where we are going. When we do that, when we operate in integrity with our inner wisdom, nothing can hold us back. That inner wisdom is what we in Unity call the Christ. It is the I Am presence. It is that divine intuitive well of wisdom that has no limit. When we operate in alignment with that, the universe backs us up. The universe is conspiring on your behalf. There is a conspiracy. And it's conspiring on your behalf, just as I will talk about next week, when Jesus said, "Be it done to you according to your belief." When we come into alignment with our intuitive genius, things line up because suddenly we're acting from a place of integrity, a place of coherence. We set up a resonance that draws to us, or we draw ourselves to, those things that are in alignment with that inner genius. If you wish, you can put, when we're done today, you can put this letter to God in this envelope. You can put your address on it if you wish. And if you go out this way, there's a box there. If you go out that way, there's 2 boxes. And we will hold these for you and mail them back to you in December. And then you can see how much of this came about. Now, some of you may want to keep it. You may want to keep it on your mirror. You may want to keep it on your refrigerator. Or you may want to take a picture of it with your phone and put it in the Letters to God box. I've done this for a number of years, and I've been surprised when I've gotten the letter back. I shouldn't be surprised because I believe unity principles, but I'm always surprised when stuff works, And I've gotten the letter back, and I look at what I had envisioned, and I'm amazed at how many of those things came into manifestation without my consciously thinking about it. Because that inner witness was seeing it. That inner witness was seeing what was already there. Ernest Holmes basically said, we're not trying to create stuff. What we are doing is seeing what's already there. What is it that you are being called to? This is exciting stuff. So that's the letter to God. And before that, you have these tiles for the white stone ceremony. I remember doing this last year when a very unusual name came to me. And I've been living out that name throughout the year. In this time of meditation, a word may come to you. It may be peace. It may be love. It may be organization. It may be something that you don't understand. But it's not about listening to the ego. It's about listening to that intuitive genius that Dr. Will was talking about. This new name. This comes from the book of Revelation, where it says that you will receive a white stone with a new name written on it, known only to you. Some people carry these with them throughout the year to remind themselves of what they are called to be. It may not make sense to you what you write down. It'll be revealed later throughout the year what it is you are embodying. As we see in the Hebrew scriptures, the Christian scriptures, people often receive name changes as there were characteristics that were changing in their lives. Like Jacob, which means heel grabber, usurper, trickster, became Israel, prince with God. You see these name changes that occur. What is your name to be lived out in this year? So, Will be playing in the background. And if we could just dim these lights a bit. Love streamers, if you would join us. If you wish, close your eyes or relax your gaze. Tap into that inner wisdom, the I am presence. Tap into that. What is yours to do? What are you here to do in this coming year? Last week we did a cleansing, a clearing through Ho'oponopono, through the burning bowl ceremony, and we released obstacles. Now, what is yours to do in this coming year? Listen to your inner guide, your inner guru. The presence of God living in, through, and as you. Listen. Listen to the voice of authenticity. Listen to the voice of love. Listen to your heart's cry of what it is Spirit is wanting to do in, through, and as you this year. First, with the white stone, listen for your name. What is it you are to embody in this year? What is the word or the phrase that you are to embody this year? What is your name for this new year? What is the cry of Spirit within you, calling you to do, calling you to give birth to, calling you to step out of the prison and the confines of programming and limitation? What is Spirit wishing to express as you? As it comes to you, write down your name on your white stone. Let this be a spiritual exercise. Listening to Spirit, not listening with the voice of ego, but listening to that intuitive genius within, the I Am presence. And now your letter to God, your perfect vision, 2020 vision. What is your vision for the coming year? What is the seed that you wish to place in the infinite potentiality of Spirit? What is the infinite field, the quantum field into which you are stepping? What is it that you wish to express in this year that the universe, the divine presence will back you up in? This is your opportunity in coherence to write your vision. You may now, whenever you're ready, write that, or if you wish to be thinking about it this week, you can be doing that. It can be as short or as long as you need. You are the presence of God in action. Let that wisdom, that peace come forth as your vision. And again, at the end of the service, if you wish, you may place it in the God box, letters to God, and we'll mail these back to you in December. If you want to bring them back to us next Sunday, you can do that. If you wish to just keep them, whatever you would like to do, whatever helps you to envision and know what is yours to do in this coming year. You can hang on to that white stone. You can keep it by your bed. You can keep it in your pocket or your purse. This is yours. This is holy ground. I think about when Moses encountered the bush that was on fire but was not consumed, and representing that inner fire, that inner wisdom. And he heard the voice, "Take off your shoes. You are standing on holy ground." This is holy ground to enter this sacred field of tuning in to your inner genius, your intuitive guide. The Christian scriptures call it the Holy Spirit. The Bhagavad Gita calls it the Paramatma. Listen to this inner guide, this inner peace. I'd like to pray over this as you are holding your vision or your white stone. We bless this collective vision. We bless each individual vision, those who are love streaming, those who are gathered here, knowing the universe is conspiring on our behalf, knowing the true nature of the divine is peace, the true nature of the divine is wisdom, intelligence, creativity, beauty, love, and we are that, and we are expressing that as our vision. Make it as bold as you wish. We are stepping into a new vision, a perfect vision of 2020. We bless these visions. We bless the names we have received. We bless this process and this spiritual community, knowing we are touching the world. And we give thanks. And so it is. Amen. Some of you are maybe still writing and finishing, and some of you are still processing. I've been processing this for the last, I've been processing this a long time, several months actually. What is mine to give birth to? Allow Spirit to express and speak as you. I again want to thank Dr. Will Tuttle and Madeline for being with us. And what I recognized as I was listening to Will was that, I want to hear so much more. I want to go deeper into that. And remember, there will be a workshop at 1:30, opening the intuitive gate, that Dr. Will and Madeline will be presenting. Yeah, there's football. Yeah, the Chiefs are playing. Hey, this is important stuff. Opening up our sacred spiritual knowingness. Opening our intuitive gate. Reverend Dr. Will speak a little bit more about that. But thank you for letting me share this sacred time with you. And we have two who will be sharing with us, I believe now, regarding faith in action. We'll be briefly sharing, giving a testimonial. So, let's take a deep breath. Because faith in action is the expression of our vision here as a spiritual community. So as both of you come up, both of you, and yes, thank you.
Hi, I've been asked, can you hear me? I've been asked this morning to talk about my testimony for faith in action. As you know, that this is our month for getting our act together when it comes to supporting our church. My name is Jerry Young. I've been a member of Unity in Marin for just about 20 years. Can't believe that. It was in Larkspur that I came to find myself at the church in the box. Unity had this temporary home or church, which was set up every Sunday and closed down on the same Sunday and put in a box. I had been raised in the religion of my parents, and it took a lot of guts for me, on my behalf, to walk through those doors into that box. The Masonic Hall, to boot, no less. I came to know Unity because of a wonderful woman named Barbara, who is a member of this church. She was gentle, caring, loving human being, one that stands out. And she and I were talking months about her spirituality, and I learned that she attended Unity in Marin. And she told me about her favorite publication called The Daily Word, which I was familiar with. My husband and I had just moved to a new home in Greenbrae, and I tried the local parish in my area, excited for a new spiritual community that was not wrapped up in my own children and was just one for me at the time. I was really disillusioned and very lonely. I had heard the messages that I had received when I was growing up, and it was just not enough for me. I needed more. I was looking for an inclusive community, one that was willing to step out in its comfort zone and commit to the 20th century. I wanted to have myself be seen as a spiritual person with potential growth. It was the week of 9/11. I was desperate for consolation, and I walked through the Unity doors, and I was greeted with a colored name tag, identified as a newbie, and brought to my seat and was introduced to my seat partner. That was the beginning, a new spiritual experience, one of a continuation of a strong foundation to which I could build my spiritual awakening. I was not alone at coffee. The community nodded their heads in welcome, and the church even had a bookstore with everything from the current spiritual text to the faithful old standards, and the Daily Word, of course, was on sale. I was breathless with joyfulness. I think I sobbed for months in my seat in the back. At every service, everything was beautiful. The messages, the music, the flowers, I could smell them, and most of all, the inclusiveness that I found. It was an opportunity for learning and spiritual growth. I attended the book study groups. The first was the Four Agreements, who was hosted by Betty Martin, a dedicated Unity teacher and a friend. And Betty encouraged the education in the Unity movement, so I studied and discussed Charles and Myrtle Fillmore, Emily Cady, Eric Butterworth, to name a few. I remember going to one class on quantum physics, noetic sciences. They were way over my head. But it was the book study groups where I met the community, where I felt safe and I could share my own thoughts. I took the Unity Way of Life classes and became a member and started volunteering as a greeter because I wanted to see a newcomer feel as welcome as I did on its first day. I was involved in fundraising and working for the hospitality and doing the fall dances, which were just for fun and not to make money. And that's when you volunteer, you really meet your community. But most importantly, and the best, is coming to Sunday services with my community, listening to our minister talk of support and having music supporting his messages. It never disappoints. And seeing our prayer chaplains, knowing that I can go to them for extra spiritual support. And let me tell you, I've used them often. And sharing that hug and that handshake from my minister at the door. How could I not support my church with faith and action? I remember agonizing it over for months when it started coming out of my checking account. But it became easier, and there was always enough money to cover. I was reminded last week when Tim talked about the required church donations as he had as a kid. Well, my dad was made sure that his children always donated to the collection box. It was just what we did. And so doing a yearly pledge just makes it plain easy, and you get credit for your donations. So I have a little bit of talk, that a message from the Daily Word that I'd like to share with you. God is our source of infinite abundance. Prosperity is my birthright because I am innately connected with the infinite source. True abundance is not about material things, but rather in the richness of spirit. To be prosperous, to seek first the kingdom of God. I seek the kingdom when I seek the fruit of the Spirit, as a joy and a love and a peace. I produce others' lives through my sharing and the unique skills that God has given me and my interests. In my daily actions and relationships, I find opportunities to share my gifts, the gifts that God has given me. And in doing so, I discover that the fruits of Spirit increase my life and my true experience of prosperity. Thank you.
So, my name is Maria Merritt, and I'm on the Faith in Action team. And thank you, Jerry, because you really took the words out of my mouth, and as did you, Dr. Will, and you as well, Reverend Tim, because if we could have the next slide. So where we're at right now, as far as our Faith in Action pledges, is at $308,000 of a $425,000 goal, with 148 people pledging. And as you can see on the slide, that was provided for me, as far as cheerful giving, and sort of getting in our head as far as a percentage of my after-tax income or 10% of my unexpected income. There's so many different ways that we could give. But what I do invite you and to encourage you is to give, whatever it is, and not so much go into your head, but go into your heart. In our first principle, our first unity principle, is there is only one presence and one power active in my life, and as the universe, God, the good omnipotent. If you trust that, if you truly have faith in that, and as our program is stated, faith in action, take the action, fill out the pledge card, no matter what it is. God is our source, as Dr. Will has stated, as Reverend Tim has stated. There's an abundant universe, and we're taken care of. And even though it could look challenging, it could look bad, but prosperity, our friends, our health, our work, our finances, all of that, it doesn't come, for me as a chiropractor, it didn't come from our patients. As my late husband would remind me, Maria, God, because I would always thank, when we left the office, I would thank the patients who supported us and supported our practice, and we supporting them via our health care. But as my husband pointed out to me, there's one step before that you're forgetting. God is our source. We don't know where it comes from necessarily, but it will come. You practice the fifth principle, believing that first principle, that God is our source. So again, I invite you to fill out a pledge card and participate so that we could keep this community going. Thank you.
So as our ushers come forward at this time, we have our offering and tithes ready. Or if you are an auto donor, you may have those cards, and next week we'll talk about those cards you can put in the offering. If you wish, place it over your heart. Please repeat after me. I bless this offering, in the consciousness, of abundance, of joy, and of gratitude. And so it is. Amen.
Just as we give, so we receive. Richly we live in one golden week. There is nothing that we can lack. We give from love, love gives it back. Just as we give, so we receive. Richly we live in one golden weave. There is nothing that we can lack. We give from love, love gives it back.
So I'd like to just play a short piece of music as the baskets continue to go around. This is called Dance for the Arctic Moon. Enjoy. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. Oh, and I just want to mention briefly that at 1:30, the workshop on opening the intuitive gate, basically we'll be sharing some techniques of meditation and imagery along with music and art to help each one who's attending connect with your own unique way of accessing your intuition. Albert Schweitzer said, the key to happiness is good health and a short memory. And that helps us come into this moment. And so please join us if you can at 1:30. Thanks very much. Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
And thank you, love streamers, those of you who are watching, and for your donations as well. As we extend our hands to this offering, we bless this offering in the consciousness that represents infinite substance, of which there is never any lack or limitation of any kind. We go forth from here to be the light of the world, and so it is. Amen.
Thank you. Wow, what a full service. Isn't that really, yeah, thanks for... Just like Dr. Will's music, I feel all these pieces of a symphony have been so wonderfully arranged. And I know it's been a long service, so we'll be out of here in a couple minutes. I just wanted to start with a couple of thank yous. Thank you to Jerry for such a warm-hearted testimonial and for Dr. Maria Merritt. She's just been an integral part and a reflection of the warmth and love in this community. And Dr. Will, what a fellow grad student at Berkeley. I didn't realize that before, and such an active mind, but really reminding us of the cosmic consciousness community. And that's how we started the service. We are a community, we raise awareness, we have love, and we really try to live authentically. So it's such a great alignment, and I look forward to the other 48 states. Unities haven't been to that many, but and Reverend Tim for the White Stone ceremony. And I also really wanted to thank you for how you started talking about the news, about the fires in Australia, and about the tensions in Iran and the shooting down of the Ukrainian airplane. When you read the news, it's really heart-wrenching. And I think that these two speakers today put our first and our fifth principle as bookends. We have that source, that intuition, that God, that millions of names in one manifestation inside. And then we have something to do, our calling, the news, or whatever it is. And so as just a personal share with you, I wanted to let you know my letter in 2019 pretty much read, hey God, I don't want to read the news. I want to go out there and co-create peace. So as you know, I've been the board president and I've been a worship assistant. So I'll continue to be on the board and a worship assistant, but I stepped down as president. And we have Sarah LaValle now as our board president and a wonderful assembly of team. And on December 11th at 7 in the evening, I got sworn in as a city council member for Larkspur. So I have tried to practice my Christianity as upholding the Constitution of California and the U.S. And so it's a big moment for me, and I ask for your prayers. And I also invite all of you to do the same. We're not meant to be sitting in our chairs. We're meant to be out there on the dance floor. So please dance. And a few more thank yous. The flowers, Sarah Gaspari. Sarah, can you just raise your hand? What a wonderful member of ours. She's not only given the flowers, she allows her husband to get up here and be worship assistant and serve on the board as well. And Caroline, with all your music and everything you've given, you've been the hospitality sponsor. Thank you for that, and thanks for everything. And Charcel wanted to briefly let us know how we can step into the sponsorship a little bit more.
Thank you, guys. And thanks to all of you who sponsored, who sponsored hospitality and flowers this year. It's fabulous the support you bring to us. And it's now time to sponsor 2020. It usually starts off a little slow, so come visit me at my table. And remember, it can be in memory of somebody, or in celebration of something, or just your reason for a holiday. Whatever, please come see me at my table. Thank you.
Thank you, Charcel. And we have a couple more classes on next Tuesday in the narthex. Reverend Medora will be teaching Jesus' teaching. It's a continuing ed, and what a wonderful way to get into the scriptural wisdom that we have here and have Reverend Medora's expertise. And then Vicki Clark, if you can raise your hand, Vicki, I think you're here, is also teaching Conscious Aging Workshop, which will start at the end of the month, Friday. It's 10 to 12 in the mornings. And Vicki, I remember you as a prayer chaplain. What a great chance to really talk about a topic that's so important, whether it's for yourself or an aging parent or anything. Thank you, Vicki. And then the last announcement is our prayer chaplains are next Sunday meeting 1 to 2:30 as an informational session. And I have to say that of the many ways which we can both find that first principle and practice, this is one of the wonderful ones. And myself having served 8 years, and I'd say 2,000, 3,000 prayers, those were all really moments of healing and awakening. So I'd love to see any of you or more of you do that. And as a matter of fact, will the prayer chaplains please rise? So these people are just really part of the bedrock of the love that you feel, and as Dr. Will said, the sanity and the health that's so prevalent in the unity movement. And we have such a gratitude and so much love for them as well. So after the service, if you have any concerns, joys, or sorrows, just talk to one of these people, and it's a great chance to connect to Spirit. And the rest of you, please rise as you're able as we say our prayer for protection. The light of God surrounds us. Of God enfolds us. The presence of God watches over us. Wherever we are, God is. And let's sing our peace song.